Mafia boss opened the secret room and found a woman hiding blood-soaked bandages under a medical brace at 11:47 p.m. Dante Romano opened the black steel door no one was supposed to touch. Upstairs, the Grand Marcellus Hotel was drowning in gold light, slow Italian music, expensive perfume, and beautiful lies. The annual Peace Gala of New York's 5 Italian families had filled the ballroom with politicians, judges, bankers, shipping kings, casino owners, and men who introduced themselves as businessmen, while their guards watched every exit with cold eyes. Crystal chandeliers glittered above polished marble. Champagne glasses touched with soft, musical clicks. Women in silk gowns smiled like they were born innocent. Men in black tuxedos kissed each other on both cheeks, calling each other brother, even though half of them had spent the last year trying to cut each other's cargo routes, bribe each other's drivers, and bury each other's secrets in the harbor. To the cameras outside, it was a charity event. To the city, it was a celebration of peace. To the Mafia, it was a room full of wolves, pretending they had forgotten how to bite. Dante Romano had no patience for pretending. He stood 3 floors below the ballroom, at the end of a hidden corridor that did not appear on any hotel map. The walls were dark marble, the lights were low. The air smelled of old wood, cigar smoke, and danger. At the end of the corridor waited room 7. No sign, no number, no handle on the outside except one flat black plate of steel. Hotel staff believed this part of the building was storage. The 5 families knew better. Room 7 was where public smiles went to die. Men entered that room with power, money, and confidence. Some came out with new alliances. Some came out broken. Some never came out at all. Dante looked down at his phone. The anonymous message was still glowing on the screen. If you want the name of the man who killed your brother Matteo, open room 7. Now Dante Romano did not move for several seconds. Matteo, his younger brother's name, still cut through him like a fresh blade. 3 years had passed since Matteo Romano's car went over the side of the Queensboro Bridge on a rainy night. The official report called it brake failure. The police called it an accident. The insurance company called it mechanical defect. The newspapers called it tragedy. Dante called it murder. Matteo had been 28, reckless with jokes but never with cars. Romano vehicles were inspected twice a week. His security route had been changed without permission. The bridge cameras had failed for exactly 7 minutes. The mechanic who signed the final inspection disappeared 2 days later. Dante had spent 3 years hunting through bank transfers, dead phone numbers, burned files, and frightened witnesses, but every road ended in silence. Now someone had used Matteo's name to pull him below the gala. Dante Romano was 33 years old, 6'3", broad-shouldered, sharply built, and dangerously handsome in the way powerful men are handsome when they know no one can afford to look at them too long. His black hair was slicked back. His jaw was clean and hard. His tailored black suit sat perfectly over a strong body trained more for survival than vanity. A silver ring engraved with the Romano wolf rested on his right hand. A small Roman cross tattoo marked the side of his neck, barely visible above his collar. Most men in New York tried to look powerful. Dante did not try, he simply was. He didn't shout, he didn't threaten loudly, he did not waste words. When Dante Romano entered a room, men stopped speaking because their bodies understood danger before their minds did. He placed his hand on the steel door. It should have been locked. It was not. Dante pushed it open. The room beyond was lit by one warm lamp and the glow of a large mirror. Dark wood covered the walls. A black marble table stood in the center. A silver medical tray rested near a leather chair. There was an open bottle of whiskey, a half-burned letter, a needle, a strip of surgical tape, and 3 drops of fresh blood on the floor. Then Dante saw her Alina De Luca. She stood in front of the mirror with her back half-turned, frozen in the golden light, 26 years old, niece of the late Don Vittorio De Luca. Publicly, she was the quiet jewel of the De Luca family, a beautiful woman in silk gowns and diamond earrings who sat at council dinners, smiled when spoken to, and never raised her voice. The men upstairs thought she was decoration, a future alliance bride, a political piece, a pretty face the De Luca family would eventually trade to strengthen power. They saw her beauty and mistook it for softness. They saw her silence and mistook it for ignorance. But the woman Dante saw in room 7 was not soft. Her black evening gown was loosened at the shoulders. One side had slipped low enough to reveal the truth she had been hiding from the entire underworld. Around her torso, from just below her chest to her waist, was a rigid medical support brace made of black leather, steel ribs, and locked metal clasps. It looked like a medical corset built to hold broken bones in place. Under that brace, white bandages were wrapped tightly around her ribs and stomach, and those bandages were soaked with fresh blood along one side. Deep purple bruises spread across her ribcage. A cut near her shoulder had reopened. Her breathing was controlled, but every breath cost her. She was not taking off a bloody brace. She was trying to remove a hard medical support brace that had been pressing into injured ribs, while the bandages underneath were bleeding through. For 1 second, Dante saw the truth no one upstairs knew. Alina De Luca was badly injured, and she had been hiding it in front of the most dangerous people in New York. Alina saw him in the mirror. She did not scream. She did not cover herself in panic. She did not look embarrassed. Her eyes turned cold with calculation, as if she had already measured the distance between Dante's throat and the gun under the medical tray. "Get out," she said. Dante did not move. His eyes went from the blood-soaked bandages to the rigid brace, then to the bruising along her ribs. "How are you still standing?" Alina's jaw tightened. "I said get out." Dante looked at the room again. Painkillers, surgical tape, whiskey, a half-burned letter, the De Luca crest lying near the blood on the floor. This was not a woman resting between dances. This was a woman forcing her body to keep a secret. "If the families upstairs find out the De Luca heir is bleeding under her gown," Dante said quietly, "you won't survive until morning." Alina's eyes sharpened. "Hair?" Dante took one slow step inside and closed the door behind him. "You can hide from men who only look at your face. You can't hide from me." Alina reached behind her again, trying to pull open the lower steel clasp on the brace. The metal had jammed. Her body stiffened with pain. A short breath escaped her before she could stop it. Dante moved forward automatically. Alina's hand flashed beneath the tray. A pistol appeared in her grip. The barrel pointed directly at Dante's chest. The room went silent. Upstairs, music continued. Glasses touched. Men laughed. Women danced. The city believed peace was being celebrated. Downstairs, in room 7, a bleeding woman in an open gown aimed a gun at the most feared Italian mafia boss in New York. "One more step," Alina said, "and the Romano family will need a new boss by sunrise." Dante looked at the pistol, then back at her face, his mouth curved faintly. "You're injured, bleeding, probably half-drugged, and still threatening me. I'm a De Luca. You're shaking." "I don't miss. Your hand says otherwise. Your eyes say you're lying." That amused him for half a second. "About what?" "You didn't come here for me." Dante lifted his phone and turned the screen toward her. The message glowed between them. "If you want the name of the man who killed your brother Matteo, open room 7. Now, for the first time, Alina's expression changed. It was small, almost invisible, but Dante saw it. The gun remained steady, but her eyes betrayed recognition. "You know something about this message," Dante said. Alina swallowed pain before answering. "I know you should leave. Not enough. I will shoot you." "No," Dante said. "You'll try, but if you fire that gun, every guard in the hotel will rush this floor. Every boss upstairs will ask why you were alone in this room, and every man who wants the De Luca family will smell blood." Literally. Alina's face stayed cold, but she knew he was right. Dante slowly raised both hands, not in surrender, but to show he understood the rules of the moment. "I'm walking out," he said. "I won't tell anyone what I saw." "Why?" "Because whoever sent me here knows about Matteo, and you reacted to his name." Alina said nothing. Dante stepped backward toward the door. "But by tomorrow night, you'll contact me." Alina's mouth tightened. "Why would I do that?" "Because someone wanted me to find you like this," Dante said. "And that means your enemy is standing closer than you think." He opened the door. Alina's pistol did not lower. Dante paused one last time. "Fix the brace before you go upstairs. The left side of your gown is already staining." For a second, something like anger, fear, and humiliation crossed her face. Then the mask returned. "Get out, Romano." Dante left. He returned to the ballroom as if nothing had happened. He accepted a champagne glass he did not drink. He smiled at a senator who owed him 3 favors. He kissed the hand of an old widow whose husband had once saved his father's life. He shook hands with a judge who pretended not to know him. He listened to a Caruso capo laugh too loudly and watched the man's throat move when he swallowed fear. But Dante's mind remained in room 7. Alina De Luca, the medical brace, the blood-soaked bandages, the anonymous message, Matteo, across the ballroom. Alina appeared 20 minutes later. Perfect, that was the first thing Dante noticed. Her gown was back in place. Her diamonds were bright. Her hair was smooth. Her face revealed nothing. She moved through the room with the calm elegance of a woman who had never felt pain in her life. Men turned to look at her. Women measured her. Luca Moretti, the loudest and hungriest boss in the room, raised his glass in her direction with a smile that made Dante's fingers still around his own glass. Alina smiled back. No one saw the cost of that smile, except Dante. And when their eyes met across the ballroom, both understood something. A secret now existed between them. In the Mafia world, secrets were not just dangerous, they were currency. The next night at 12:09 a.m., Dante stood alone in his office at Romano Tower, looking down at New York Harbor. Romano ships moved like black shadows across the water. The city glittered beneath him, unaware of how many decisions made in rooms like his determined whether food, medicine, fuel, and money moved smoothly through its veins. His right-hand man, Marco Vitale, entered without knocking. Marco was 60, silver-haired, and calm in the way old soldiers are calm after surviving too many young men's mistakes. He had served Dante's father, then Dante. He had no children, no wife, no fear anyone could use against him. "Boss," Marco said, "message from De Luca." Dante did not turn. "Alina?" "Yes." "Where?" "Brooklyn waterfront. Old church near Pier 12. She said, 'Come alone.'" Dante smiled faintly. "Of course she did." Marco stepped closer. "The De Lucas have been enemies longer than some of our men have been alive. Enemies can still tell the truth." Dante reached for his coat. "That's why I'm going." Marco's face hardened. "Boss." Dante finally turned. "If I don't come back, burn the Moretti roots first." Marco nodded once. "And the De Lucas?" Dante's eyes were cold. "Only if she lied." The old church sat near the Brooklyn waterfront, surrounded by warehouses, rusted fences, and the smell of the river. Its windows were dark. Its cross was broken. Its front doors were chained, but the side entrance was open by exactly 3 inches. Dante entered alone. He saw the first hidden camera above the candle stand, the second behind the cracked saint statue, the third in the old confession booth. He ignored them all. The staircase behind the altar led underground into an abandoned wine cellar. Candles burned along the walls. Old stone arched overhead. A black table sat in the center of the room. Alina De Luca sat on the other side. She wore a white suit, clean lines, no jewelry except small diamond earrings. Her hair was tied back. Her makeup was flawless. No blood, no visible weakness. But Dante noticed her left hand gripping the table's edge too tightly. The brace was still on, hide under perfection. Alina spoke first. "You didn't tell anyone." Dante sat across from her. "You didn't shoot me. I considered it. I noticed." "You always notice?" "Only when people bleed under expensive clothes." Her eyes narrowed. "Careful. You asked me here. I asked you here because your brother found something before he died." Dante became still. The air changed. Alina slid a folder across the table. Dante opened it. Photos. Burned metal. A car wreck. Medical scans. Bank transfers. Port codes. A shell company name repeated on 3 separate pages. Venera Holdings. Dante's jaw tightened. "That name came up in Matteo's investigation. It came up in mine too," Alina said. "What investigation?" 3 months ago. "My convoy was attacked outside Newark." Public version, attempted robbery. Family version, wrong place, wrong time. Real version, betrayal from inside De Luca blood. Dante looked at the medical scans again. Broken ribs, damaged lung, shoulder fracture, internal bleeding. "That was you." Alina's face revealed nothing. "Yes, that's why you wear the brace. It keeps my ribs from shifting when I stand too long. And the blood. One of the wounds reopened during the gala. You should be in bed. I should be dead. Bed is an improvement." Dante studied her. "Who attacked you?" "Luca Moretti's men." "Luca doesn't move without profit. He wasn't moving for himself." Dante looked at the Venera Holdings papers. "Who owns it?" "That's the question everyone dies before answering." Dante closed the folder. "Matteo was tracing this." "Yes." "Why didn't you come to me 3 years ago?" Alina's eyes flickered, then hardened again. "Because 3 years ago I didn't know if you were part of it." For a moment, Dante did not speak. Many men would have taken that as an insult. Dante took it as intelligence. "And now?" "Now I know you've been chasing the same ghost." Dante leaned back. "What do you want?" Alina slid a second folder forward. "Protection." Dante almost laughed. "From me, with you. That's different. I need to survive the council meeting next Friday. If the 5 families learn I'm injured, my uncle Salvatore will take open control of the De Luca family. Luca Moretti will take our ports. Venera Holdings will remain invisible. And whoever killed your brother will stay protected." Dante looked toward the candlelight on the stone wall. Your uncle's voice turned cold. "Family is the word men use when they want loyalty without earning it." That answer interested him. "You run De Luca operations," Dante said. Alina did not deny it. "How long?" 5 years. "Everyone upstairs thinks you're decoration. That's why I still have all their numbers." Dante looked back at her. "You want me at the council. I want you close enough to catch me if I fall." Silence. That sentence sat between them like a loaded gun. Alina continued. "Not as my savior, not as my owner, not as my future husband, as my shadow. If I show weakness in that room, I lose my family. If I lose my family, your brother's truth disappears." Dante tapped one finger against the folder. "What do I get?" "Half the evidence now. Half after the council." "What evidence?" "Names connected to Venera Holdings, including one connected to Matteo's last meeting." Dante's eyes darkened. "Give me the name." "Not yet, Alina." It was the first time he said her name, not loudly, not softly. But the room felt it. Alina did not look away. "If I give you the name now," she said, You'll kill the first piece and lose the board. Matteo died because he found the board. Don't make his mistake. Dante leaned closer. You're using my brother to keep yourself alive. Alina's answer was immediate. Yes, most people would have lied. Alina did not. Dante watched her for several seconds. Good, he said, her eyes sharpened. Good. Honest manipulation is cleaner than fake loyalty. For the first time, Alina looked almost amused. That sounds like something a Romano would say. Dante picked up the folder. One condition. Speak. When your pain gets bad, you tell me. No, then no deal. Alina's face hardened. I have spent my entire life making sure men do not see me break. I'm not asking to see you break. I'm asking to know when to move. I don't need rescue. I'm not offering rescue. I'm offering strategy. Alina studied him. Dante's voice lowered. If you collapse in front of Luca Moretti, he won't just take your ports. He'll turn your body into a message. If you lie to me about how bad the injury is, I can't protect the move. Alina's fingers tightened on the table. Finally, she said, fine. Dante stood. Alina remained seated for one brief second. Pain slipped through her face as she adjusted her posture. Dante noticed, but said nothing. That was when she began to trust him, not because he saw her pain, because he had the discipline not to announce it. Over the next week, the underworld saw something it could not explain. Dante Romano and Alina De Luca began appearing in the same rooms, not together, not officially, never warmly. At a private bank breakfast, Dante stood near the windows while Alina negotiated shipping credit with a man twice her age who thought he could confuse her with interest rates. She corrected his numbers without looking at her notes. Dante watched the banker's face go from amused to worried to obedient. At a Port Authority dinner, Luca Moretti made a joke about women handling cargo routes. Alina smiled and recited 3 container codes from memory, then asked Luca why 2 of his shipments had been delayed by unpaid customs fees. The room laughed quietly. Luca did not. At a judge's birthday party, Alina's breathing changed halfway through the evening. No one noticed except Dante. He stepped near her, blocked the view with his body, and handed her a glass of water with medication hidden in his palm. She took it without looking at him. They argued constantly in private. You stand too long, Dante said one night in a service hallway behind a restaurant. You stare too much. You bleed too easily. You speak like a doctor with a gun. You hide pain like a fool with a crown. Alina turned on him. Do not confuse proximity with permission. Dante stepped closer. Do not confuse pride with strength. Her eyes flashed. Strength is standing when the room wants you on your knees. No, Dante said. Strength is knowing when standing is useful and when it only feeds your enemy. For a second, she looked like she might slap him. Instead, she laughed once, sharp and humorless. You must be exhausting to love. Dante's expression did not change. I wouldn't know. The words landed differently than she expected. Alina looked away first. 2 days before the council meeting, they met in an underground room beneath a Romano-owned restaurant in Little Italy. Maps covered the table. Bank routes, port lines, family territories, judge connections, union pressure points. Dante stood with Marco Vitale. Alina stood with no guards. That alone told Dante something. She trusted no one in her own house. Marco placed a file on the table. Luca Moretti has increased payments to 3 De Luca captains. Alina's face remained calm. Names. Marco read them. Alina closed her eyes for 1 second. Dante noticed. You trusted one of them. My father trusted one of them. Worse, she opened her eyes. Yes, Marco continued. Your uncle Salvatore requested a private meeting with the Caruso family. Alina's lips tightened. He wants them to recognize him if I fall. Dante looked at her. If. Alina ignored the correction. Luca will test me at the council. He'll do more than test you, Dante said. He'll expose you if he can. Then he has to get close enough. Dante's eyes went to the medical kit on the side table. How bad is the brace? Alina's face hardened. Manageable. Dante said nothing. She held his gaze for 5 seconds, then she looked away. The lower clasp is damaged. If it locks again, I won't be able to breathe properly. Marco's eyes shifted to Dante, but he said nothing. Dante nodded. Then we control the timing. You sit for the first half. You stand only when you speak. If Luca forces movement, I interrupt. Alina's tone turned cold. You will not make me look weak. I'll make him look impatient. Same thing if done badly. I don't do things badly. Alina stared at him, then said that arrogance must be heavy. Dante answered, not as heavy as a steel brace on broken ribs. For one moment, Marco looked down to hide the smallest smile. Alina caught it. Do you find this funny, Mr. Vitale? Marco answered calmly. No, Mr. Luca. I find it familiar. What does that mean? It means every real boss I have ever served thought pain was private property. That silenced the room the night before the council. Dante returned to room 7 alone. He had not planned to, but something about the first message still bothered him. Who had access to that room? Who knew Alina would be there? Who knew enough about Matteo to use his name? He searched the room slowly. The blood had been cleaned. The tray was gone, the whiskey removed, the mirror polished. But Dante did not look at what was visible. He looked for what had been left behind by someone who expected the room to be cleaned quickly. Behind the frame of the mirror he found a tiny black transmitter, not Romano, not De Luca. Too clean for Moretti, he removed it carefully and placed it in his pocket. Someone had been watching room 7. Not just that night, maybe for months, maybe years. At 2:13 a.m., Dante's phone rang, unknown number. He answered. A distorted voice spoke. You should have left the girl alone. Dante's eyes remained on the mirror. You should have chosen a better hiding place. Silence. Then the voice said, Matteo died because he wanted to save her. Dante's body went still. What did you say? He found out what she was, what she controls, what she would become. He thought he could protect her from the old men. Dante's hand closed around the transmitter. The voice continued. Ask her why he was on that bridge. The call ended. Dante stood in the quiet room for a long time. Then he went to Alina. She was staying in a private suite on the 38th floor of a De Luca-controlled hotel. Her guards did not stop Dante. That meant she had told them not to. He entered without being announced. Alina was standing near the window in a dark robe, the medical brace visible under it, her hair loose over one shoulder. For the first time, she looked tired before putting on the mask. You should be resting, Dante said. You should be sleeping. I found a transmitter in room 7. Her face changed. Not much. Enough. You knew, Dante said. I suspected. How long? After my convoy was attacked. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if it belonged to you. Dante's eyes were cold. You keep saying that, because it keeps being true. He stepped closer. The person who planted it called me. Alina's breathing shifted. Dante watched her carefully. He said Matteo died because he wanted to save you. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of everything she had not said. Dante's voice dropped. Why was my brother on that bridge? Alina looked out at the city. For the first time since he had met her, she did not answer quickly. Alina, she came to warn me. Dante felt the words land like a fist. Warn you about what? My uncle Salvatore, Venera Holdings, the council plan. He had proof someone inside De Luca blood had sold access to our port system. He believed Salvatore had arranged my father's slow poisoning. He wanted me to leave the city that night. Dante's jaw tightened. And you didn't? I didn't believe him. The answer was honest and ugly. He was a Romano, she said quietly. We had been taught our whole lives that Romanos smile while holding knives. I thought Matteo was trying to manipulate me. Dante said nothing. Alina turned toward him. By the time I understood he was telling the truth, he was already dead. Dante's voice was almost too calm. You kept this from me for 3 years. Yes, because you were afraid. Yes, because you wanted to survive. Yes, because my brother died carrying truth meant for you, and you buried it. Alina flinched, not physically, emotionally. Dante saw it. She did not defend herself. That made it worse. I have no excuse, she said. Only a reason. Give it. If I had gone to you then, Salvatore would have called it a Romano plot. My own captains would have turned on me. Luca would have taken our docks. Venera would have vanished. Matteo's proof would have died with both of us. So you waited. I collected names, routes, payments, doctors, judges, every person connected. At the cost of my brother's name. Her eyes finally shone, but no tears fell. At the cost of mine too. Dante stared at her. Anger moved through him, cold and clean. He wanted to hate her. It would have been easier. But Alina did not look like a woman who had betrayed Matteo for power. She looked like a woman who had been buried alive under a secret and spent 3 years digging with bleeding hands. Dante turned to leave. Alina's voice stopped him. Dante. He did not turn. He smiled when he talked about you. Dante closed his eyes for half a second. Alina continued. He said you acted like stone because you felt too much and hated anyone knowing it. Dante opened his eyes. His voice was low. Don't use him to soften me. I'm not. Then don't say his name unless you're ready to give me everything. I will. When? Tomorrow. Dante finally turned. Alina stood straight, despite the brace, despite the pain, despite the guilt. Tomorrow, she said. I end my uncle. You get Matteo's killer, and if I fall before I finish, you open the red file in my bag. What is it? Everything. Dante looked at her for a long time, then he said, you won't fall. Alina gave a faint, broken smile. That sounded almost kind. It was strategy. Of course. The council meeting took place the next night beneath the old Bellini Opera House, a building the city believed had been abandoned since the 1970s. In reality, beneath its cracked stage and dusty velvet seats was the oldest council chamber in New York's Italian underworld. 5 family crests were carved into the stone walls. Romano, De Luca, Moretti, Caruso, Vitale. A circular black marble table stood in the center beneath a ceiling painted with angels who looked down on men who had forgotten heaven existed. Every family arrived with soldiers. No one brought too many. No one brought too few. Balance mattered. Luca Moretti arrived first. White suit, gold rings, heavy smile, eyes bright with hunger. He liked being watched. He believed noise was power. Salvatore De Luca arrived next. Silver hair, soft voice, old hands folded over a cane. cane. He looked like a grandfather. That was his greatest weapon. Men underestimated old snakes because they moved slowly. Dante Romano entered without announcement. The room quieted. He wore black, as always. No visible weapon, no need. Marco Vitale followed 3 steps behind him. Romano soldiers spread into the shadows like they had been born there. Then Alina entered. The entire room turned. She wore a deep emerald gown under a black coat. Her hair was pinned back. Diamonds touched her ears. Her face was calm. Her posture was perfect. No one could see the rigid medical support brace under the dress. No one could see the blood-stained bandages wrapped around her ribs beneath it. No one could see the painkiller hidden beneath her tongue. No one could see that every breath had been measured before she entered the room. But Dante saw everything. She walked to the De Luca seat. Salvatore smiled warmly. "Alina, my dear, you should not have troubled yourself. This meeting is heavy work." Alina stopped behind the chair and looked at him. "Then it is fortunate I have been carrying heavy things for years." The room became quiet. Luca chuckled. "Careful, little queen. Heavy things can crush delicate shoulders." Alina turned her eyes to him. "Then why are you still standing?" "Luca." A few men looked down to hide reactions. Luca's smile tightened. Dante remained standing near the Romano seat, close enough to reach her in 3 steps, far enough that no one could accuse her of leaning on him. Salvatore tapped his cane lightly. "Let us begin. The De Luca family has suffered instability. For the good of peace, I propose temporary authority be placed under my office until my niece recovers from recent stress." There it was. Soft language, deadly meaning. Alina sat slowly. "Recover from stress?" Salvatore's voice remained gentle. "You have been under forward. Some say more than pressure." Dante watched Alina's hand under the table. It did not shake. Alina said, "If anyone has an accusation, speak clearly. I dislike cowards who hide knives inside polite words." Luca smiled. "Fine. Are you injured?" The room froze. Salvatore lowered his eyes as if saddened. "Beautiful performance." Alina looked at Luca. "Everyone in this room is injured. Some from bullets, some from pride, some from stupidity." Luca's jaw tightened. "That is not an answer. It is the answer your question deserves." Luca stood. "Stand up then." Dante's fingers went still. Alina did not move. Luca spread his arms. "If you are fit to hold De Luca authority, stand before the council without Romano's wolf hovering close enough to catch you." Every eye shifted. The trap was perfect. If Dante moved, Alina looked weak. If Alina refused, she looked exposed. If she stood too long, the brace could lock, her breathing could fail, and the entire De Luca family could fall into Salvatore's hands. Alina looked at Dante. Only once, not for help, for timing. Dante gave nothing away. Alina slowly stood. The room watched her. The first 5 seconds were perfect. 10 seconds, 15. She lifted her chin. "I will stand," she said, "but not because Luca Moretti demands it." Her voice carried through the chamber. "I will stand because tonight the De Luca family stops bowing to dead men, frightened uncles, and businessmen who think a loud voice can replace a brain." Luca's face hardened. Salvatore's smile faded. Alina pressed a small remote hidden in her ring. The wall behind her lit up. Documents appeared. Bank transfers, poison records, port access logs, private messages, names, dates. The room changed. Salvatore's eyes went flat. Alina pointed to the first file. 3 years ago, Matteo Romano discovered that Venera Holdings was not a company. It was a network built inside our families. Judges, bankers, port officers, capos, politicians. Men who pretended loyalty while selling our roots piece by piece. Dante did not look at the screen. He looked at Salvatore. Alina continued. "Matteo brought that evidence to me. I did not believe him in time. He died because of it." A low murmur moved through the room. Dante's face stayed stone. Alina pressed the remote again. An audio file played. Salvatore's voice filled the chamber. "Matteo has the file. Remove him before he reaches Dante." No one moved. The words seemed to hang above the black table like smoke. Salvatore's face remained calm, but his fingers tightened on the cane. "Fabrication," he said. Alina pressed again. A second file appeared. A doctor's confession, payments from Salvatore's private account. Medical reports from Don Vittorio De Luca's final months. Slow poisoning, controlled doses, diagnosis. Alina's voice stayed steady, though Dante saw the pain rising in her shoulders. "My father was not taken by illness. He was poisoned under Salvatore De Luca's orders." The De Luca soldiers shifted. Salvatore's maskful child. Alina looked at him with complete calm. "There he is." The old man stood, rage replacing softness. "I kept this family alive while you played with numbers." "No," Alina said. "You kept yourself alive while better men died for your fear." Luca slammed his hand on the table. "Enough." Dante finally spoke. One word. "Sit." Luca turned on him. "This is not Romano business." Dante's eyes were dark. "My brother's murder is Romano business." The room dropped into silence again. Luca reached inside his jacket and moved before the gun cleared fabric in one smooth motion. He crossed the space, caught Luca's wrist and twisted. The gun hit the table. Marco Vitale already had his weapon against Luca's guard's ribs. Romano soldiers stepped from the shadows. De Luca soldiers hesitated, eyes moving between Salvatore and Alina. This was the real moment, not the evidence, not the confession. The soldiers had to choose who the family belonged to. Alina's brace locked. Dante saw it happen. Her breath shortened. Her left hand tightened at her side. A thin red mark began spreading beneath the emerald fabric near her ribs. The bandages under the medical support brace had reopened again. If she fell now, Salvatore would use it. Dante did not move to catch her. Not yet. Alina took one slow breath, then another. She looked at the De Luca men. Choose, she said, just one word. But it carried 5 years of silence, 3 years of guilt, broken ribs, poisoned blood, hidden files, and every insult she had swallowed while men called her decoration. The oldest De Luca capo lowered his head first, then another, then 3 more. One by one, the De Luca soldiers turned their eyes from Salvatore to Alina. Salvatore looked around and understood. His family had left him while he was still standing in the room. Luca shouted, "You think this ends here?" Dante looked at him. "No, it ended before you arrived. You were just loud enough to believe you mattered." Marco disarmed Luca's remaining men. Caruso and Vitale representatives quietly stood away from Salvatore's side. Bankers in the back row lowered their eyes. A judge Dante recognized began sweating through his collar. Alina pressed the remote one final time. 7 names appeared on the screen. Luca Moretti, Salvatore De Luca, 2 banking executives, 1 federal port official, 1 Caruso accountant, 1 Romano captain. Dan's eyes went to the last name, hardened. The Romano captain was not in the room. Dante spoke without turning. "Bring him." Marco nodded and disappeared into the shadows. Salvatore laughed bitterly. "You think evidence wins wars?" Alina's breathing was shallow now. No, Dante stepped beside her. Alina looked at Salvatore. "Loyalty does." At that exact moment, the council chamber doors opened. The Romano captain was dragged in, beaten but alive, by 2 of Marco's men. His face was pale. His mouth was bloody. He dropped to his knees without being pushed. Dante looked at him. The man began shaking. "Boss, I can explain." Dante's voice was calm. "No," the captain swallowed. "I didn't know they would kill Matteo." Dante's face did not change. That made it worse. The captain cried now. "I only gave the route. Salvatore paid me to change the security path. I swear I didn't know." Dante walked closer. Every man in the room watched. Dante crouched in front of him. "Did my brother know your name before he died?" The captain sobbed. "Yes." "Then he died, betrayed." The captain lowered his head. Dante stood. He did not give an order. He did not need to. Marco's men took the captain away. Salvatore watched the room slipping from him. Luca was restrained. The Venera network was exposed. The De Luca soldiers had chosen Alina. The Romanos had their traitor. The council had witnessed everything. The old man turned to Alina with poison in his voice. "You are still just a girl." Alina smiled faintly despite the blood beneath her brace. "That is why you lost." Then her knees weakened. Dante caught her before anyone else saw how close she had come to falling. To the room, it looked like a controlled movement, a boss escorting another boss away from the table. To Alina, it was the only reason she stayed upright. Dante leaned close enough that only she could hear. "Breathe." Alina's fingers gripped his sleeve. "No, you're performing." A weak laugh almost escaped her. "You always ruin my dramatic moments. You keep bleeding through them." He guided her toward the side chamber. Behind them, Marco took control of the council. Orders were given quietly. Luca was removed, was held. Bankers were separated. Phones were collected. Doors were locked. Outside, the opera house remained dark and abandoned. Inside, an empire changed hands without a single public shot. In the side chamber, Dante set Alina carefully into a chair. The emerald fabric at her side had darkened. He opened the medical kit. Alina tried to push his hand away. "I can do it. You can barely breathe." "I said I can do it." And I said no. She glared at him. "You do not command me." Dante looked up. "Then stop making me save you." The words hit harder than he meant. Alina's expression shifted. Dante regretted it instantly, but did not apologize with words. Instead, he worked carefully. The rigid medical support brace had locked at the lower clasp. The steel edge had pressed into the injured ribs. The bandages underneath were soaked with fresh blood. He cut the outer fabric away just enough to reach the clasp, then loosened it slowly. Alina's breath broke. Her hand grabbed his wrist. Dante stopped. "Keep going," she whispered. He did. The clasp released with a sharp metallic click. Alina leaned forward, forehead nearly touching his shoulder. For several seconds, she did not speak. Dante stayed still. The most dangerous woman in the De Luca family sat wounded in front of him, stripped of every performance she had used to survive, and somehow she looked more powerful than she had at the council table. "Finally," she said, "I should have believed Matteo." Dante's voice softened, just slightly. "Yes, I should have come to you. Yes, you hate me for that. Dante did not answer quickly. I did, he said. Alina closed her eyes. Dante continued. Now I hate the men who made you think silence was survival. Her eyes opened. That was more mercy than she expected from a Romano. Matteo was kind, she said. Dante looked down at the blooded bandages. Too kind for this world. He believed you were better than this world. Dante's face tightened. Alina's voice was weak but clear. He said, Dante acts like a monster because everyone expects one, but he still counts the bodies afterward. Dante looked away. For once, he had no answer. 3 weeks later, New York's underworld had changed. Officially, Salvatore De Luca retired to Sicily for health reasons. Unofficially, his name became a warning spoken only by men who knew when to lower their voices. Luca Moretti's ports froze overnight. His bank accounts failed. His private aviation service cancelled his contracts. His union protection vanished. Warehouses that had welcomed his cargo for 20 years suddenly required paperwork he did not possess. Men with guns discovered that guns could not move freight, unlock credit, restore trust, or force frightened partners to answer phones. Venera Holdings burned from the inside, not literally. Worse, Dante and Alina fed evidence to 6 different agencies, 3 private banks, 2 foreign regulators, and 1 judge who owed Matteo's memory more than he owed money. Each piece moved separately. No one agency saw the full board. No one man could stop the collapse. The network did not explode. It rotted in public, 1 document at a time. A senator resigned. 2 port officials were indicted. A banker fled to Monaco and was arrested before sunrise. A Caruso accountant confessed in exchange for protection. The Romano traitor disappeared into a private prison beneath a shipping yard, where men did not ask questions because they already knew the answers, and Matteo Romano's grave finally received the truth. Dante visited at dawn. The cemetery was quiet. The grass was wet. The city had not fully woken yet. He placed a silver Romano coin on Matteo's headstone. Alina stood several steps behind him in a black coat. No diamonds, no performance. The medical brace was still under her clothes, but lighter now. Her wounds were healing. Not gone, healing. Dante looked at the name carved into stone. He trusted you. Alina's voice was low. I failed him. Yes, she accepted it. Dante turned his head slightly. And then you carried what he died for. Alina's eyes shone, but she did not cry. I don't know if that is forgiveness. It isn't. She nodded once. Dante looked back at the grave. But it is truth. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Alina stepped forward and placed a folded note beside the coin. Dante did not ask what it said. Some guilt belonged to the dead. Some apologies did too. 6 months later, room 7 opened again, but this time there was no blood on the floor, no whiskey glass, no hidden panic, no woman fighting a medical brace alone in front of a mirror. The room had been transformed into a private strategy chamber. Maps covered the walls. Port routes glowed on screens. Family territories were marked in silver lines. Financial networks ran through encrypted tablets. The black marble table remained in the center, but now it held contracts instead of surgical tools. Alina De Luca sat at the head of the table. No one questioned it. Her brace was gone. Her body had healed enough that she no longer needed steel to keep her standing. The scars remained under silk, but she no longer treated them like shame. They were records, proof, memory. Dante Romano stood near the window, looking down at the city lights. You're late, Alina said without looking up. Dante checked his watch. 30 seconds. In our world, 30 seconds can change a bloodline. In our world, so can opening the wrong door. Alina looked up. For a moment, room 7 became what it had been that night. Blood, secrets, pain, and a gun pointed at his chest. Then it passed. Dante placed a black folder on the table. Alina opened it. Inside was the Romano De Luca Permanent Peace Charter. She should ports, she security, she intelligence, equal authority. No forced marriage clause, no ownership language, no hidden family claim. Alina turned the page slowly. You removed the marriage clause. I never added it. Your lawyers did. I corrected them. Her eyes lifted. Why? Dante's answer was calm. You are not a treaty gift. Alina studied him. And you are not a savior. No. What are you then? Dante looked toward the black steel door. The same door he had opened because of Matteo's name. The same door behind which he had found Alina bleeding under a rigid medical support brace, trying to hide blood-soaked bandages from an entire empire. The same door that had turned enemies into witnesses, witnesses into partners, and grief into war. I am the man who saw you wounded, Dante said, and knew you were still the most dangerous person in the room. Alina's face softened by 1 careful inch. That sounds almost romantic. It was a warning, of course. She signed the charter. Dante signed after her. Outside room 7, Romano and De Luca guards stood across from one another. Months ago, they would have reached for weapons. Now they guarded the same door. Marco Vitale stepped inside. The council is waiting. Alina stood, no hesitation, no hidden pain, no steel brace. Dante watched the movement and said nothing. That was respect, not praising her for standing, not reminding her she once almost fell, just letting the room see what she had become. Ready? He asked. Alina walked toward the door. Always. They entered the council hall together. Every conversation stopped. 5 families watched as Dante Romano and Alina De Luca crossed the room side by side. Not lovers, not enemies, not exactly allies. Something more dangerous. Dante pulled out the chair at the head of the table, but he did not sit. He offered it to Alina. The room understood the message before anyone spoke. Alina De Luca was not decoration. She was not an injured secret hidden under a gown. She was not a piece to be married, traded, protected, or controlled. She was the woman who had survived Salvatore, exposed Venera, buried Luca's empire, and stood bleeding before the council until every man in her family chose her. Alina sat. Dante stood at her right side, close enough to protect, far enough that no one could mistake his protection for possession. Alina looked around the table. "Let us begin." Her voice was calm. No one interrupted. After the meeting, Dante and Alina stood alone on the balcony above the opera house. New York glowed beneath them. Ships moved through the harbor like slow black ghosts. The river caught the city lights and broke them into gold. Alina looked out over the skyline. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not opened that door?" Dante answered. "Matteo would still be waiting. For justice? For me." Alina nodded slowly. The wind moved softly between them. She said, "I was terrified that night. You aimed a gun at me." I said terrified, not helpless. Dante almost smiled. "Fair." Alina looked at him. "Did I look weak? No. I was bleeding through bandages under a medical brace and barely breathing. You looked furious." This time she smiled. A real one, small, rare human. Dante watched her, and for the first time in years, the thought of peace did not feel insulting. Not soft peace, not easy peace. A harder kind, the kind built by people who had seen the worst rooms and still chose to open doors. Alina turned back to the city. "Room 7 belongs to me now." "Yes. Does that bother you?" "No." "Why not?" Dante's voice was quiet. "Because the first night I saw you there, it was a room built to hide pain. Now it is a room where truth survives." Alina said nothing for a moment, then she looked at him. "Tomorrow. Room 7. No guards." Dante lifted an eyebrow. "Business? No. Strategy? No. What then?" Alina's eyes held his. Dante's faint smile returned. "That may be the most dangerous meeting we've ever had." Alina walked toward the door. "Good," she said. "Dangerous things suit us." Dante followed her inside, and that night, room 7 closed again, but this time no secret was buried behind its black steel door. This time, something stronger than fear began there. An empire built by a man who had lost his brother, a woman who had carried blood under silk, and a truth powerful enough to make the entire Mafia world lower its eyes.